Joining us right now is Matt Bonesteel from the Washington Post. He covers the NCAA tournament for the Post. And we were hoping, Matt, that today we'd have a couple of local teams to talk about in the Sweet 16. But my gosh, it was a shutout.
It was a bit of a bloodbath this weekend, yes.
Yeah, so, but let's start with that game I just talked about. What happened to the Cavaliers? A lot of people were saying that they thought the Cavs got robbed. They should have been the number one seed. But is Michigan State that good? Is Izzo that good a coach?
Well, Izzo is in March. It's hard to bet against Tom Izzo and Michigan State. They are, I forget the exact number, but they've been to the Sweet 16 now, I think, 18 times or something like that since, 1996 or something like that. So he gets his teams ready to play in March. And Virginia's committed too many turnovers, which really hurts them. And when they can't, and they have trouble scoring already, and when they're turning over the ball, they really don't have much of a shot.
And meanwhile, the Terrapins last night, it was a late game on the West Coast. A lot of people didn't get to see it. But, I've got a guy in our sales department here who absolutely, there's Terp paraphernalia all over his cubicle. He just bleeds for the Terps. And it's funny, when the brackets came out, I said, geez, it's going to be tough call against Kentucky. He said, oh, forget Kentucky. I'm worried about West Virginia. What did he know?
Yeah. West Virginia employs a very ferocious full-court press, and that obviously Maryland struggled with it. And then when Melo Trimble, their great freshman point guard, went down about midway through the second half, they really don't have another point guard on that team, and that's a huge problem. If he ever gets injured or gets in foul trouble or what have you, Maryland is not going to win too many games, and you saw that last night.
Well, Larry and I and a lot of other people listening right now, we're just mere mortals. But you, Matt, are a sports reporter for the Washington Post.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you're doing in your brackets because, you have insight. You have understanding of the game that the rest of us really don't have. So how's your bracket doing?
I wish I could say that, but, let me just call. I got my standings right here. I was doing well after the first day, but since then I've sort of fallen back to the middle pack, and I actually did a blog post this morning on the national ESPN contest, and only 14 out of 2-point-some-odd million entries picked the Sweet 16 correctly. Yeah. So, that's a tiny percent.
Yeah, it's a very. But what was the biggest surprise to you? Because there were a lot of upsets.
There were a lot of upsets on Thursday, and then things really have come back to earth a lot since then. Even Thursday afternoon, it was all those upsets. With UCLA's only double-digit seed still remaining. And then you had Georgia State and UAB and teams like that winning on Thursday. But then, since then, it's been all chalk. It's been all the favorites have really asserted themselves. What
about Villanova? Were you surprised by that?
No, not really. They didn't play too many. The Big East was tough this year. Don't get me wrong. It was a tough conference, but they weren't challenged like some other teams have been nationally this year.
Villanova, by the way, the first number one seed to fall right against North Carolina State. But other than that, the other three top seeds are still in it?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Duke still alive.
Now, all right, admit it, you picked Kentucky, didn't you?
I did.
All right, so everybody picked Kentucky, and I get that. Are they looking as unstoppable as everyone assumed? Because I haven't seen those giant margin of victories here from them.
No, and in their first game, I think the first game on Thursday night, the game didn't start until like 10:30 at night, and Coach John Calipari said after the game, look, it's a late start, and it's 1 o'clock now, and our players just want to go home and go to bed, and it's tough when you have to. And the game before theirs went to overtime, so it's hard when things get pushed back like that. They're doing what Kentucky does. They're a big physical team that just smothers you.
I go back to the Maryland game. Melo Trimble got kicked in the head by one of his own players, sort of really a freak thing that really put Maryland at a disadvantage. But he's a freshman. Maryland has the makings of a pretty good team going forward, don't they?
They do. They'll lose. Des Wells is done his career is done at Maryland. He was sort of the glue guy who kept that team afloat for the past couple of years, actually, until Melo got here this year. And assuming Melo comes back to Maryland, and I haven't heard anything otherwise that he's going to try the NBA, which is always a possibility. But if he comes back, I mean, that's a top 10 team with what they have coming back.
Can we get turn to Georgetown? We haven't. It's so funny. I mean, you used to talk about college basketball in this town, and it was pretty much all Georgetown and maybe a little mention of Maryland. Let's bring them back into the conversation here. They were ranked a 4 seed here, which suggests that the experts thought they would make it to the Sweet 16. What happened when they faced Utah?
I mean, Utah, they just played better defensively, and when Georgetown has had trouble, Georgetown only has one scorer in Devontae Smith-Rivera, and if no one else besides him picks up the slack, they're going to struggle, and that's what happened against Utah.
From an entertainment aspect, because this is more than just sports. I mean, people tune in to watch this because of the storylines, the drama, the Cinderella teams. Wichita State, I mean, we got to stop calling them a Cinderella team because it seems like every year they shock everyone. This year they shocked Kansas and beat them. Kansas, a number 2 seed. Is the drama there this year? You mentioned the first day had a lot of upsets. Has this been an entertaining tournament so far?
The first day made up for the fact that the last 3 days have not really produced the type of upsets that March Madness is known for. But as that day recedes further in the rearview mirror, it's just going to look more and more like this is a ho-hum chalk bracket, which is what is the case. I mean, there's only one double-digit seed left in the Sweet 16, and that's the lowest number, I believe, since 2009. So, like last year, the last 4 of the past 5 years, there's been 3 double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16, and one of those years there was 4.
And by the way, usually those double-digit seeds that make it in are teams like Gonzaga or Wichita State, as I mentioned, or Butler. Teams that this double-digit team seed is UCLA. It's not like they're unknown in college basketball.
Yeah, a powerhouse who a lot of people didn't think they deserved to be in the tournament even, and they got in and they've done well. Of course, they got their second-round matchup, they lucked out a little bit. So,
all right, in the 30 seconds we have left, looking forward to the games that are still to be played, what's the matchup that you're most anticipating?
Oh, let's see. I mean, I think I'm gonna go with. I really like to see Kentucky, West Virginia, just because see what that defense of West Virginia can do to try to slow down Kentucky. I mean, I don't think they're going to be successful in the long run, but after seeing what they did to Maryland last night, it could be interesting to see if they can, at least halt this juggernaut a little bit.
Put a dent in it, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. And so you're standing by Kentucky as your pick?
Yes, I don't see anyone beating them.
All right. Matt Bonesteel from the Washington Post. Thanks for checking in with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It's the best weekend of college sports. I love the March Madness weekend.
Yeah.